What is RVM in real estate? All right, guys, you've probably never heard of this acronym before. It's called RVM. Fantastic question. Thank you for asking. And if you've got a question like this you'd like to have me answer, all you've got to do is type it in the comments below, and I'll put together a video just like this. Okay, so RVM stands for Realtor Value Method. RVM, which is basically what realtors do to value properties. Now, I will say this is not a common acronym, so if you haven't heard it before, don't try and memorize it. You can forget it because it's not something you really need to worry about. But I am going to talk about what you do need to worry about when it comes to values. The other acronym you may be heard of is an AVM, which is an automated value management. But the whole concept here, when we're talking about an RVM, is basically a realtor valued management. And what realtors are going to do is they're trying to establish what this house is going to sell for in the future. But here's the thing, we don't really know what this house is going to sell for. So this is an educated guess because we won't know until you have a willing seller and an able buyer. That is where you are going to be able to determine the value of the property. So an agent is going to be using their best guess, or a realtor is going to be using their best guess and making that determination as to what the house is going to sell for. So how do we determine what a best guess, an educated guess on what a willing seller and an able buyer are going to be willing to do? Well, the method is called comparables. And there are actually several methods that you can use in valuing properties. There's a cost approach, which is what would it cost to reconstruct this? That's one way to value properties. The other way is you can do a cash flow approach, where you basically say, how much income does it bring in? And based upon that, we can do an analysis and make a determination about what's called a cap rate. And the last way is what's called a comparable approach. Okay, we take comparables and we say, what are other things selling for? Now, in residential real estate, which is typically up to 2 to 4 plexes and single family houses, you're not going to be using these first two. You are going to be relying upon the comparable approach. So what an RVM is doing and what a realtor is doing is they're saying, I want to look at comparables. Now, my recommendation is when you're looking at comparables, if the house is here, you want to make sure you're not going any more than 1 mile away from the property. And frankly, the closer you are to the property, the better you are in most cases. So that's one thing that you want to make sure you're doing, is no more than 1 mile away from the property. The other thing is you want to go, when you're looking back on your sold comparables, you want to make sure you're no more than 1 year back. Now, I like to start at 6 months because the sooner, the more recent the transaction has happened, the better off. Now, we're going to look for two things. We're going to look for sold comparables and we're going to look for active comparables. Okay, sold is going to tell me what somebody was willing to pay for the property, and active is telling me what they're currently going for right now. I want to know both of these numbers to have an idea. Now, at times you'll find that the actives are higher than the solds. That means the market is heading up. Sometimes you'll find the inverse, where the actives are less than the solds, which tells me that the market is actually heading down, which is good for me to understand so I can price the property accordingly. I typically like to find 3 to 4 sold homes, 3 to 4 active homes within a 1 mile radius with no more than a year out from the time that it's sold. The closer the better, the more recent the better. And then I'm looking for similar properties, like for like. So for example, if this property is 2,000 square feet, I'm typically going to be looking for anything from 1,500 to 22, maybe 2,300 square feet. And then I'm going to be trying to find what's the most comparable that I can possibly find. Another thing that an RVM is going to start doing is what are called adjustments. And adjustments are where people or agents, realtors, can get in trouble, because if they can't find a house that's comparable, let's say they find a house that's 2,500 square feet, that's 4 beds and 2 baths, and the subject property is 2,000 square feet with 3 beds and 1 bath, what they have to do is decide how much are those bathrooms worth and what do I have to subtract from these comparables in order to establish this. But you're typically going to only run into that in areas that don't have a lot of activity, typically typically more rural areas, and those things can be more difficult when you're investing. So I'd recommend staying away from those types of things. For the most part, you want to make sure you're having solid comps. Now, if you're enjoying this, please hit the thumbs up button. It tells me I'm doing a great job, and it tells YouTube I'm doing a great job too. And if you don't know, I like people saying I'm doing a great job, so I would greatly appreciate it. Okay, so this whole thing is RVMs is Realtor Value Management. Forget the acronym. What I want you to remember from all of this is how to value these properties. You want to look for 3 to 4 actives and 3 to 4 sold within no more than a year and within no more than a mile. Closer is better. You want to avoid adjustments as much as possible, and you're trying to find a house. Because here's the thing, guys. If I can find a house that is right across the street with the same number of bedrooms and bathrooms that sold yesterday that has the same paint colors as my house, it's a pretty good indication that I'm going to be able to sell my house for that. Now, not always, but it's a pretty good indication, because remember, the willing seller and the able buyer, market conditions could change, interest rates could go up, things can change. So this is an educated guess. But if I have somebody right across the street, the house is identical to mine that just recently sold, there's a really high degree of confidence that my house is going to sell for that same amount. But the further away I go, the further in time I go, then I have to start making some assumptions. And the further away from the property, if it's not like for like properties, then I have to start making adjustments, which is more assumptions, which makes it more questionable as to what the property is really going to sell for, which is what this whole thing of the RVM is a realtor doing all of this research, making the determination, saying, here's what I think you should list the property for, and here's what I think you'll probably sell it for. Don't be surprised if you're getting an RVM if the realtor gives you a range. I think it'll sell somewhere between 200 and 225, because when you're looking at this data, it's hard to decipher unless you had amazing comparables that can really tell you. But realtors are really good at this and getting a great idea about what the property will really sell for. Now, if you are interested in doing some investing and want to use an agent to help do some RVMs for you, you're going to want to go after motivated sellers. And one question I frequently get asked is, what the heck do I say to somebody that's interested in selling their property? Well, you're in luck. I created a motivated seller checklist, or a motivated seller script. And I'd love to give you a copy of that. If you're interested, all you've got to do is text me your email address. So just text me just your email address to 435-294-0433. If you do that, I will email you a copy of my motivated seller script. I've got a killer video on how to find properties to wholesale. I'm going to put that on the screen for you to watch, as well as a blog post in what is skip tracing in real estate. You can check that out. I've got a link below. If you're not already, please consider becoming a subscriber to our channel and make it a very profitable day. Bye for now.